of people looked at the way that he performed, considering the circumstances he was working under last year, and thought that, you know what, he was pretty damn good considering the circumstances. We transitioned to Jalen Hurts. We root for Jalen Hurts. We're glad he's in the National Football League. We're glad he got drafted. No question about it. Threw for over 3,800 yards at Oklahoma last year after transferring from Alabama, threw 32 touchdowns, completed about 69% of his passes. But he has never been considered to be an elite passer. That's obviously not been his strong point, and you combine that with the residue from his performance in that national championship game that led to him getting benched in favor of Tua Tagovailoa when Nick Saban benched him at halftime against Georgia. I was at that game. I got to tell y'all, it was one of the worst performances I had ever seen by a quarterback in the first half of that national championship game. Now, obviously, that's just one game, and that doesn't take away from the winner that he has been, etc. But you're talking about him going up against Carson Wentz. Guess what? You got to be able to fling that football on an elite level to supplant Carson Wentz. I see no controversy here whatsoever. It is clearly Carson Wentz's team as long as he's healthy, as long as he's durable, which is obviously a huge, huge if. That's the only if as far as I'm concerned. If Carson Wentz is healthy, you ain't even thinking about Jalen Hurts as the quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. You'll use him the way New Orleans might use a Taysom Hill or somebody, but that's about it. This is Carson Wentz's team. It ain't even a debate as far as I'm concerned.
Man, absolutely not. I don't know that there's ever been a controversy, though. I think the controversy is us. The controversy is people talking. Doug Peterson has never had an issue with this. This has never been a situation to where they were thinking Nick Foles would be the starter, which actually makes sense because he went from Jacksonville, got beat out by Gardner Minshew. Now he's going to battle Mitchell Trubisky in Chicago. So they knew then, even with Nick Foles winning a Super Bowl, being the Super Bowl MVP, you know what? We're going to give Carson Wentz $109 million guaranteed because he's worth it, because he was the guy in 2017 that was the leading MVP candidate before he gets hurt in Los Angeles, because he was the guy. And Max is right about this. There were some great things Carson Wentz did last year where you were like, oh my goodness, that's the dude I thought he was. And then there will be some bonehead plays. But then there's also the white side drop against Detroit that loses the game. There's the Nelson Aguilar short touchdown that he drops against the Atlanta Falcons early on in the seasons that has them in a different position. Oh, and when they had to win 3 games in a row to beat the Dallas Cowboys or to win the NFC East over the Dallas Cowboys, what did they do? What did he do? Carson Wentz came out and put that team on his back with guys playing with Miles Sanders and Boston Scott in the backfield, with Greg Ward, a converted wide receiver who was in a totally different league and on practice squad before the season started. With all those things going on, Carson Wentz brought this team to the playoffs. Carson Wentz won games making these people better than they were. And you can say that, Max. You can say, but that's what it was. Before the season, people picked the
Ryan,
Dallas
let's
Cowboys
be real.
to be in the playoffs. The Dallas Cowboys had an opportunity to do that, and Carson Wentz did it with people who we didn't know.
Defense. Look,
and you can
look. Miles Sanders is good. Dallas had a bad defense. That's what happened.
He is a good player.
And Miles Sanders is good. Like, he's not a name brand, but he was good. He played well. And the thing about Carson Wentz is he had bad second half, third down turnovers consistently, and he got healthy against the NFC East, which was the worst division in the history of football. And by the way, when he was beating the NFC East teams down the stretch, he got a little lucky to do it. And by the way, all the other NFC East quarterbacks, and some of them were hurt, and it was their backup playing, were having better wins versus other NFC opponents than Wentz was at the time. Let's be honest about what happened. The Cowboys imploded. Now, Jalen Hurts, let's get back to that for a second. Why do I see a controversy, guys? Because if the Eagles think, okay, we're poised for the playoffs here, which they are, then Howie Roseman doesn't look, they could have gotten CeeDee Lamb. They decided not to do it. Why? Why didn't they go after the best receiver in the draft? Because it would have cost them a pick that they wound up using for another guy, right? Well, why did they do that? You can just get a veteran backup quarterback that gives you experience and playoff protection, as they did with Nick Foles, in the event Wentz gets hurt. That's not what a Jalen Hurts pick is about. It's not about protecting your current playoff chances in the event your injury-prone quarterback goes down. It's about looking at a guy to see if he can be your quarterback of the future. That's why you use a relatively high draft pick on a quarterback, especially why you don't trade it in to get the receiver you need right now.
Max, that's wrong because you're saying that CeeDee Lamb was the #1 wide receiver, and depending on how you evaluate him, maybe so. But he was the third dude picked. What they wanted was speed, and Jalen Reagor was the speed receiver that they wanted on the outside, which is why they held pat. And drafting Jalen Hurts isn't about protecting. It isn't about the future. It's about being able to do certain things. Deshaun Jackson's coming off of a hernia injury. It's about being able to do certain things with a player that protects your quarterback from having to do them. We know Carson Wentz will run. We know that Doug Peterson likes the RPO game. He likes the zone read games, which are things you can do on 3rd and short, 3rd and medium, things you can do on 2nd and short where you can mix Jalen in that gives Carson Wentz a break, that takes some hits off of his body. It's a smart pick if used the right way. And since Stephen A was talking, I didn't want to bash Jalen Hurts. But the one thing y'all all said down the stretch about my LSU Tigers was that they couldn't defend. I watched the semifinal game. I watched Jalen Hurts. I watched Lincoln Riley. I watched Oklahoma, this vaunted offense that scored all these points. And the defense that y'all talked about that was going to be the reason why Clemson won, that was going to be the reason why LSU couldn't win the championship, shut him down. And he had CeeDee Lamb, the dude you're talking about that the Eagles could have picked. And he couldn't move the ball. He got through one read and then he ran, or he got sacked, or he threw a bad pass. And I'm not trying to pile on Jalen Hurts, but it's Carson Wentz here, Jalen Hurts there. There is no controversy. This is a pick to add, not a pick to replace. Carson Wentz is the starting quarterback of this team. He's going to be the starting quarterback as long as he's healthy. And if he gets hurt and Jalen Hurts plays, he's going to be the starting quarterback when he gets back because he is better.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.